Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tokusatsu podcast to interview. Yes, we're doing something a little special today. We have Lucas Nyhus. I didn't
stumbled a little bit already.
That was perfect.
Yeah.
No, there was legitimately a fly right in front of me, and I got really distracted. I'm like, what the fuck? Anyways, so yes, we have Lucas.
Duke
We have
Nukas.
we have Nuki today.
Oh no!
No. So no, we have Lucas Nyhus today, aka the man who is here.
Hello.
So Lucas, tell us a little bit about, well, why exactly you're here today.
Well, I've talked about this in our personal correspondence and our chats. I am a fan of this podcast. I got really into Toku in the last year. I've been working on a short film for the last, coming on a year now. Started writing it last March, called Infernal Swordsman. That's very derived from Tokusatsu, kaiju, swashbucklers, action movies. A little fun hodgepodge of stuff.
So yes, our friend here, Lucas, to pull the curtain back all the way, he did message us a while back saying if we wanted to do something with him about the movie. Jay and I watched the preview. We were like, yeah, you know what? Sounds fun. We like to be professional.
This looks like right up our alley. Yeah.
We like to be professional every once in a while.
Occasionally. You know,
Occasionally.
Beyond all of the jokes about homosexuality and various other vulgar things that we discuss, occasionally we do act professional and put on a legitimate internet production.
I mean, we are professional homosexuals.
That is true.
That
is true.
This is not even a joke. It's just true.
That is a fair and accurate description of us. Yes.
So just getting right into it. We do have a few questions, and we're just going to spitball them at Lucas here, so we can get a bit more about it. So, number one, Lucas, this one's for me, and then I'll give it to Jay so he knows this first one. What exactly, basically, what attracted you to the Tokusatsu genre, but also more specifically, Kamen Rider, as we've seen with your film?
It started, I had stumbled on Inframan, one of my favorite movies, Super Inframan. And I think when we had our call a month ago, I described it to you guys as like, I felt like Richard Dreyfuss in Close Encounters. I watched it and I was like, that was fun. I had a fun time watching that. And then, I was in bed, couldn't sleep. And it was just the feeling of I have to recreate this, or I have to make some simulacrum of this, or otherwise I will never be full. I will never be filled until I make my own Inframan. And then it was just me and my co-writer, Shay Danucci, really voraciously tearing into, wanting to do our homework, and really getting into a lot of different shows, watching a lot of Kamen Rider, which was the most fun homework of my life. And but yeah, and Kamen Rider was just, it struck such a chord with us, I think, just because it felt the closest to what we wanted our hero to be, just like the silent, awesome hero who rides a motorcycle and kills monsters. Really, fundamentally, I don't know what else you would want.
It's fair enough. It's a nice, simple premise. I think, honestly, just for those in the audience who don't necessarily know who you are, why don't you tell us a little bit about, you, how you got into filmmaking, what were your inspirations as a filmmaker? What inspired you to just become a filmmaker in general? You've already gone over what inspired you to make this movie, but just how you got into this field of work.
I think it was being really struck in middle school and high school by filmmakers like Sam Raimi and Joe Dante and Edgar Wright, just like these great genre filmmakers who imbue their films with so much like crazy frenetic energy, and it's especially Sam Raimi's my favorite director, just like that constant Looney Tunes energy of just constant gags and constant visual innovation, and just always cranking every dial up to 11. At a young age, it was just like, oh, I want to do that. And so many, especially not to generalize, but American movies I find generally boring. And so it was such a refresher as a teenager to watch movies like Evil Dead 2 and just be like, oh, you can do anything. And you can just really go hog wild with a movie.
Yeah, that sort of awakening moment when you see a, not like a cookie cutter industry, not an industry, like, I'm trying to think of the right way to put it, like a mainstream manufactured production that's, you know, nice and rounded and clean. And then you watch like an independent, lower budget independent movie. I don't want to say like a real movie, but like you go to something that's made by a director with actors and a vision, and you have that kind of moment where, you know, use the metaphor Close Encounters of the Third Kind. You have that moment where you realize, oh, this is something that can, this is how it works. This is something that I can do. So that's it's a very I feel like that's a very relatable way to describe getting into filmmaking. I think that a lot of people can empathize with that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, shit, that's how it happened with me with Animal House. But that's a different story.
It's true.
So, next question from me, of course. The better questions, obviously.
Well, to be fair, that one was Phil's. Phil's off doing something or other. I think he said he had a...
Why did you ask Phil's question?
Because he's not going to be here, and then he's going to piss and moan that we didn't ask his questions.
Well, you know what? Sometimes he deserves it.
Well, you know what? That's fair. That's fair.
But yes, anyways, my second question would be more along the lines of, so as a filmmaker who, again, you've watched more movies like Evil Dead and such like that, you have a very specific style, and in America there's a very, even across genres, there's an obvious style to how certain movies in America are made. How did you find difficult, or if you found it difficult at all, trying to translate your style to something as well known and distinct as Japanese tokusatsu?
I mean, match made in heaven. Just, I was trying to recreate so many little tricks and like visual touches that struck me in Toku, where it was just like, this feels like such a natural fit for what I want to do and what I want to make. And you know, there's some things that are a little more direct, like there's literal shots that I took from episodes of Kamen Rider, and like even little things like I love the crash zooms, I love the crazy whip pans, just it matches up honestly really well with like the American movies I love, and with movies like the Evil Deads and Army of Darkness and Gremlins 2, just like that crazy visual style and like the constantly moving camera. It was honestly a lot more one-to-one than I expected.
Okay.
So
go on, Jay, ask your questions.
Well, I suppose I should probably get the obvious one out of the way. Is tell us a little bit about the movie itself. Give us a quick synopsis of the plot. You know, whatever you feel like divulging. You know, obviously we have the trailer. I'm sure you're just gonna link the trailer. But you have the trailer, but go a little bit more in depth. Tell us about what the movie is about, more or less. Give us the elevator pitch, I guess is the best way to put it.
So to give the general, just like, plot summary of the movie, there's a man called the Swordsman who is your typical vigilante on the hunt. He doesn't really have an identity. He doesn't really have memories. He just kind of wears a suit. He wields a sword. He plays bass in a band called Electric Squadron. He rides a talking motorcycle, named Motorcycle. And Demon Princess, who is the daughter of the Demon King and the ruler of the land. Her and her accomplice, Professor Cyborg, take issue with, his crime busting, general crime stopping. So they send two monsters of their own creation and their legion of demon goons after the swordsman. That was basically how I pitched it to my co-writer, and it's pretty much all of those ideas stuck through to the final film.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. I mean, you don't need anything more avant-garde than that for Tokusatsu. Not to lessen your production, of course, but you don't really need anything high concept. That's kind of all you need is you have a guy who has a suit and powers, and there are guys who hate the fact that he's a good guy and they want to kick his ass. It's worked for the last 60-something years. Why change it now?
I mean, I would extend that to I don't know what more we need from film and literature.
That's fair. I mean, to be fair, yeah, if you go all the way to back, like, even to the Bible, I guess the Bible is basically, there's a guy, and he's a good guy, and there are people who take exception to him being a good guy. Reducing 10,000 years of human history down to that, I know, yeah.
Leave it to this show to somehow compare Kamen Rider to the Bible.
I mean, listen.
You know what? He's been crucified.
He's been crucified several times.
And you're right.
Of course, there is the immortal line, even if there's no God or Buddha, there is Kamen Rider.
Wow, that... I mean... Okay. That really took something out of me, man. I'm not gonna lie.
For the record, I agree. I think Jay is right.
Yeah.
Most people do.
Do they?
Yeah.
Our O's 10th anniversary episode would say otherwise.
Hey, listen,
yeah?
that's a low blow.
You knew that. You knew that was coming.
I guess I did.
It happens. It happens. That is your Retler Media Joker moment. That is.
I guess that's fair.
Anyways, I was actually going to add something onto that, but I actually can't remember because of the whole Bible thing, which is something I didn't think I was going to say today. I'll be honest, but I guess I'll just move on to my next question. This is more of it's a multi-part question. In a ratio of how much you worked, what was the ratio of practical to CG effects? And to bounce off of that question, in particular with the practical effects, how difficult did you find some of those things to not only work, because let's be honest, practical effects can be hard to make work, but also just to look good on camera?
I think the ratio would be like 99.5 to like 0.5. I'm a big nerd for practical effects, and we use them wherever possible. I mean, I could like count off the top of my head just like the only times I used digital visual effects were to create a lightning strike, to extend some smoke, and to extend, we used a little miniature castle for the villain's big castle, and there was a bridge connected to it, and I just extended the bridge. So that's it. It's just those three. Everything else is all in camera, which was super fun to do. And yeah, getting to do like miniatures and squibs and all of that stuff was so much fun. Part of that was just what made it a real dream come true. Even we also did like a little miniature city that was so much fun, even if it took forever. The actor who plays Professor Cyborg, my good friend Ben Vandermeer, labored for weeks over those miniature buildings, and he did a great job.
People always underestimate how long it takes to make those.
Make them look really good for 5 seconds.
Exactly. I mean, hey, as long as you don't blow them up, you can always reuse that. Nobody's gonna notice.
It's Tokusatsu. You gotta blow shit up.
I mean, that's fair. As long as you don't blow up.
You just watch INFERNAL. You know everything blows up.
Well, that is true. That is very true.
I'm pretty sure Tokusatsu, they just live in a world of just natural C4. Everything is just made of C4. Just ask BioPink, right?
Oh.
I love that woman. I saw an interview with her not too long ago where they asked her about that, and dude, I swear her face, man.
Oh, yes, I know the one you're talking about where They talk to her about like coming back, and she just has that 1,000-yard stare of remembering being shot at with napalm and grenades and everything. And,
dude, the 70s were a lawless time.
they certainly were.
So to go back to the practical stuff, again, like to reiterate the second part of that question, were there anything like that you found particularly difficult when it came to practical effects? Because I know there can be some things that, in concept can be really, really good, but when it comes to budget and brass tacks, sometimes it might not come out looking or even working as well as it would be.
Everything that we ended up using turned out great. Everything that was difficult were things that we had to, during the pre-production process, have to eliminate and say, logistically, we can't do this. And the saddest losses for me were we couldn't do any pyrotechnics, and we couldn't do any like wire stunts, any like fights on wires, just for safety reasons and to keep our actors safe, and because our creative advisor told us not to do it. So
well, I'll say this much: you're at least safer than Toei.
It's true.
You have that above them.
It's true. But you bring that up. That actually goes into two different questions that I had. Sorry if you weren't done yet, or if AJ was going to say something else. But that does remind me, I was going to ask, not just necessarily in the realm of the special effects, but just in general, were there any particular noteworthy issues that came up during production? Obviously no film production is going to be 100% without fault, but did you have any particularly noteworthy events that went wrong, or was it all more or less pretty much smooth sailing, other than the obvious day-to-day issues like scheduling or whatever?
I was about to say, like, all of the issues were never like fun stuff. It was never like, oh, like this crazy thing blew up, but it wasn't supposed to blow up. It was all like, making this movie with my friends. Scheduling with 5 people who work full-time jobs is very difficult. So I have to give props to everyone who helped for showing up and doing such a great job in between, like filming these scenes in between work and school. Leaving school and then coming and acting like a monster, and then like, all right, I got to go work a 10-hour shift. But yeah, there were
no major hang-ups, pretty much.
Luckily, and that's the importance of really doing your planning and really doing your homework, because if you don't plan everything to a T, which I don't like planning the like shots or the creative stuff. I kind of like to, on the day of, just like play around and just like, oh, what if we did this? What if we did this? But really planning out how we're going to do a fight, and how we're going to do a stunt, and how we're going to do safety stuff, just so you don't create a situation where someone is potentially uncomfortable or unsafe, especially, again, working for free, just doing a favor for me.
Yeah, that's
the importance of that.
Yeah, that's good. That's smart planning. I've heard many horror stories of many both independent and studio funded productions that just were complete disasters beginning to end. So
oh, I'm sorry, were we talking about Hibiki again?
Not at the moment, no, but yeah, that's interesting to hear. But very good on you. Props for being able to nip most of the major problems in the bud before they became an issue. But
actually, yeah.
Going on from that, my other one, kind of because you were talking about it again, about you wanted to do like wire stuff or pyrotechnics. Was there anything throughout production that you absolutely wanted to get into the movie that you just, for whatever reason, could not? Like, were there scenes that you wanted to do that you had to cut, or were there effects that you wanted to put in, or anything like that? Anything that, again, without, obviously we don't want you to spoil the movie or bring up stuff that happens, but were there any ideas that entered your head that made it some way along into production that eventually kind of fell by the wayside onto the cutting room floor?
There's 2 things. One, the lucky thing for us is that we're doing 1 or 2 or possibly more short films with these characters, just basically sequels. And so the great thing is that if there were any anything that we couldn't put in for logistical reasons, it was so fun to be able to table it. And we're writing the second one right now. And like the first discussion I had with my co-writers was like, well, since we couldn't do any pyrotechnics in the first one, let's go crazy with pyro in this one. Let's go nuts. More blood, more guts, more explosions, more wires. But then also, I think the only big idea that ended up on the cutting room floor that we do want to do at some point, I love the trope of, the hero has like their opposite, like not necessarily the antagonist, but just like
the reverse hero, as I like to put it.
Yeah, the inverse of themselves. So we had a character in the first draft called the Anti-Swordsman, which was just like this biological genetic creation. Basically looked like the swordsman with like bug eyes, and he like looked a little tweaked. And so that was a really fun idea that we unfortunately had to abandon just because we did not have the time or money to make 2 of the exact same suits.
Unfortunately, you had to cut out the cameo from Jay and I. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you know what? We didn't want to spoil the reason why we did the interview. After all, is that we're doing it as a 50-50 exchange. But I guess
we're the only ones who were paid. Like we got like $3,000 per minute. You know?
Per minute. Jeez, that's not what my contract said.
Oh well, sorry. I kind of Hoganed your ass. Not gonna lie.
You fucker.
Welcome to Macho Man status, bitch.
Well, that's fine. Everybody likes Macho Man more.
Well, nowadays they do.
That's true.
But yeah. It is interesting to hear kind of like, because again, I've always been into more of the indie side of filmmaking. You know, obviously filmmaking is in and of itself is an art, and seeing bigger films, how they're made, it's always great. But seeing the way that you make films, and of course I've watched some of yours beforehand as well. Not this one, but like, I mean, obviously not this one, it's not done yet. But the ones you've already done, and it always interests me to see how it comes together from, I don't want to say nothing because I don't want to make it sound disrespectful, but basically from grassroots, I guess I could say. It's very interesting to see everything come together.
That's not disrespectful at all. That is literally just the way I work. And I mean, this is possibly not a great way to make movies, but I love doing it so much. I mean, on Infernal Swordsman, I had like 0 crew. I had friends helping from time to time. There were a few days where I had people like do the slate or be assistant director, but I set up all the lights. I was always operating camera. I was a one-man crew, which for a production like this is crazy. And then, I was explaining it I helped with a friend's thesis film. He's a film student, and the crew was all asking me about this. And, I was like, oh yeah, it was like a little crazy because it was like five fight sequences, 14 days of shooting. Like I was the only crew member, and they thought it was, I mean, they probably thought it was stupid, but they also thought it was crazy that I would do that. And I was like, oh yeah, maybe that's why I felt like I was dying for a month.
Yeah, I'm sure being film students, at least one of them was like, so that's how it feels not being the one doing it. I'm sure at least somebody there has gone through the exact same thing, knowing many film school students in the past.
Yeah. Yes.
Actually, this is the question that I want to bring up because I know we talked a little bit about it when we spoke beforehand. The way that you do things, especially with, it's usually one-man crew, and the way that the energy you exude with some of your films, and even just talking to you, you very much do remind me, and I hope you take this as a compliment when I say it, it very much reminded me of like a younger James Rolfe in that sense, and seeing your style of movies in the way like it very much brings to light those kinds of films, and I mean that in entirely all the respect in the world. I don't want people to hear that and think, oh, I'm dissing you or whatever.
I would never in a million years take that as disrespect. I am so flattered that you would compare me to the angry video game nerd himself. And I have a point about this. You're getting me riled up. But the early angry video game nerd stuff, I'm being sincere when I say this. It's so much content. Like I hate the word content. Like that sucks. But a lot of like whatever videos on YouTube right now are so formalized for the algorithm, and they're so just like, I've got to make something as long as possible that will cater to the algorithm. The title and the thumbnail are so perfect for what the algorithm will push onto people's pages, and it's so craven. But those early angry video game nerds, like, they're video game reviews. It's like a guy who like plays a NES game that sucks, and he's like, this stinks. But the use of camera angles and the use of camera movement is like so fun, and there's such a fun energy of like, oh, I'm reviewing Friday the 13th. Jason comes out of the closet and he gets me in a headlock, and then I take his machete and I stab him, or whatever. It's such a fun energy, and that is so void from the kind of like short films and videos that I see right now.
Yeah, I actually, funny enough, I'm pretty. I know Jay and I have spoken about this, but I'm pretty passionate about that idea as well. Where a lot of stuff nowadays doesn't feel they have a lot of soul, and a lot of stuff doesn't have that anymore. And that's why when I see movies and films like yours, and the other, and older angry video game nerd stuff and stuff like that, even some of the stuff that Jay, Phil, and I do. We try and put that kind of energy there, where it's like we're doing it for entertainment. We're not doing it for the algorithm to like us. And that's why I like your stuff a lot, because it's like it really does evoke that feeling of soul, that feeling that I got when I was watching short films back when I was 12 or 11, back in like 2007, 2006. And it's great to feel that again watching something.
And I'll also say this has kind of been talked about to death, but YouTube is so bad right now, and there's really no alternative platform to get your stuff seen if you're up and coming filmmaker. You can't make money unless you cater to the algorithm, and you can't make money making what I make. Like, if we wanted, like, the methods we're looking at to fund a second Infernal Swordsman short would not be from YouTube monetization. It would be from third-party investors, merchandise, and that's it. Those are the only two methods that would be viable. We could not fund another one of these from money distributing online, and that's really sad, because again, this took me a year to make, which is why you don't have animation on YouTube, and which is why the people who are like filmmakers or animators or do like some crazy thing, and they have projects that take them like 6 months to a year, they have to do Let's Plays and podcasts and whatever to fund their actual endeavor, which obviously love Let's Plays, love podcasts, but you should only have to do the thing you want to do, and you should be able to get a fair amount of money from putting that online.
Honestly, yeah, I agree with that entirely.
Very solid philosophy, yes.
I do agree with that entirely. Actually, it's funny. I know Jay and I, we've used this place multiple times, and I've worked with people on this site. There's been kind of an outcry, mostly for films like this, not just whatever like YouTube does it, but like legitimate short films and stuff for things like this on Newgrounds. And maybe if this picks up or whatever, I would say this would be a pretty perfect time for someone to tell Fulp to, hey, maybe short films might be the way to go here, because I would say short films deserve to be part of the artistic nature of Newgrounds just as much as anything else would.
I'm sure. I'm sure Tom would probably at least consider it if somebody with some clout proposed it to him. But
I mean, shit, they have Lego stop motion there. That's already close to IRL.
That's true.
Yeah, I know that's still animation, but it's so close to IRL film as it can get, I guess.
I mean, I think my last point on this would be that I think the worst thing to happen to a filmmaking in like an age of digital distribution was YouTube making the change from you get paid by the view versus now you get paid by the length. And so it really rewards people who can put out like a 6-hour video every day. Your PewDiePie, you put out an hour Let's Play every day, and it gets 1 million views, and you can put in 10 ad breaks in there. I think that's such a bad system, and that's why like there were so many animators that could no longer make a living off of YouTube.
Mm-hmm. It is a sad state of affairs, but again, I think that they're, again, with at least in terms with like Newgrounds, and I know I'm shilling Newgrounds a lot. Fault didn't pay me for this, by the way, guys. Don't worry.
You should.
Just saying.
Guys, let's all get on Newgrounds.
Come on, Tom. Open up
I
your
know,
fucking
right?
wallet.
What wallet? He didn't have money, Jay.
I know.
He's poor as us. No, but yeah, like in terms of that, I feel like maybe that would be a great place to start. Again, I know it's still a little bit of ways away, but I think that would be a good thing. But again, I like your philosophy, and I love the passion you have for wanting to make this into a career, because it's not easy, man. Like as somebody who works in the arts as a voice actor himself, it's not easy making money in the arts, especially when you're so full of like creativity and you have all these things you want to do, but it's like you're just $1 away from being able to do it. I know that feeling exactly, but it's interesting to hear someone else feel the same way that I do. I mean, that was all the questions I had. Well, Jay, did you have any more?
I think that's everything I had. Let me double check to see. No, yeah, that's pretty much everything. Well, I guess there's one little one. Phil had proposed it, I guess. So for obviously you're sticking with a lot of like Showa era stuff. It seems like based on the trailer and based on what you've described, what you're watching.
Yeah.
For the preceding ones, because you already mentioned you're planning on doing more. Do you have any plans on incorporating more recent ideas like earlier Heisei or even some of the newer Reiwa era stuff, or are you planning on sticking solely like Showa era aesthetic?
It's just kind of, you just watch something and it's just, if something catches you, something catches you. And I have been watching, I've been pulling from different inspirations for this second one that we're planning right now. Specifically, this isn't like recent, but it was more recent than what we were pulling on for the first one. Kamen Rider Black and Sentai Jetman have been getting a lot of playtime as I've been writing. And I feel like that goes in line with the wanting a bit more of a like mature aesthetic, wanting more character bits now that we've set the table with like the world and who the characters are, and we have all the pieces in place. And I feel like those two shows specifically have been like a good representation of like, oh, this is kind of what I want to do in the next one.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid way of looking at it. That's kind of the you compared to Raimi. That's kind of the Spider-Man 1 to Spider-Man 2 kind of thing, where Spider-Man 1 was a little not necessarily kiddie, but it was a little safer. It was obviously the origin one. You kind of get the world building stuff that way. But then with Spider-Man 2, he gets a little grittier. He gets a little more mature. He starts incorporating more serious themes. And obviously now that the backstory stuff's out of the way, he can go full hog with his usual insanity. So I think that's a good way of looking at it, is once you've got the first movie, you kind of establish the major stuff, and then that's when you start to build on the lesser details. I think that's a smart idea. So it's interesting to hear that you've already planned that far ahead. Again, not many filmmakers don't do that, unfortunately.
I'm consciously trying to pull myself away from just talking about Spider-Man 2 for the rest of this.
But Spider-Man 2 is like the best comic book movie ever. It's hard not to talk about it.
But I will say there's a million video essays and articles about like what makes Spider-Man 2 special, and I think it really is just like people like the first one. People came to see it, and just the fact that Raimi had never done a big blockbuster like that knowledge that you can do it and that you have done it already gives you such an insane confidence that's like, well, now I'm just going to go hog wild because I know I can do it and I know I can do a good job. I don't know how people are going to react to Infernal Swordsman, but just that feeling the day we finished filming of like, oh, I did it. Now I can do it 100 more times. This is great. So that's what I would guess is the magic of Spider-Man 2. I'm really glad we got to have some AVGN and Spider-Man 2 talk in this. We're hitting all the points of things I like.
It's good. It's good.
If you stick around, we'll do a lot more, buddy. Don't worry. Those seem to be constants around these parts at this point. I don't remember if you did mention this, but what date are you shooting for this to come out?
I believe when I was talking to you, we were shooting for end of January, but at this current juncture, it is really, we really want to do a good job, and we have been constantly reshooting because there were some bits we weren't happy with. And, you know, when you commit so much time and energy to something, and you love this thing as much as we do, and it becomes, this is dorky, but it is our baby, and we don't want to put it out until it is fully awesome, fully kick-ass, fully loaded and ready to go. So probably end of February. We're just pushing it back a little bit. But yeah, we're on socials as Infernal Swordsman. It's gonna be on my YouTube channel, Lucas Nyhus, NYHUS. And so it's coming, but we want to give it our time and let it incubate.
That's good. That
makes sense.
Very smart.
What is the biggest thing that you've learned from filming this? That like specifically this that like you think you can apply this to the rest of your craft for like possibly the rest of your career?
I think the biggest thing, and if there's anyone who listens to this and has even a passive interest in like, oh, maybe I want to make a short film, or maybe I want to do this or that. I think when you're a creative, there's so much of a dominant feeling of like, oh, well, I have to do this kind of thing so people will like it. Or I can't do what I really want to do because it would be expensive and it would take a lot of time and it would be really hard. And when I had this idea a year ago, it seemed so unattainable of like, oh, well, I really want to do something with monsters and with fights and with a talking motorcycle and whatever crazy stuff I want to do. It seemed so unattainable and it seemed so impossible. And it was really so much fun to do. It was the most fun I've ever had in my life. And I'm really grateful I could do it. And it really was a dream come true. And something I hear a lot from, I'm going on a big tangent right now. Something I hear a lot from friends or colleagues or collaborators who are like, oh, I really want to do this. I have this script or I have this idea, but it's probably going to be bad, or I'm probably not gonna, people probably won't like it. Just, this might be cliche, but just do it. There's no alternative for doing it, and there's no substitute for doing it, so you have to do it. And do it today. Put pen to paper today and hold your feet to the fire and get it done. Because it'll be a lot of fun, and you'll have a lot of fun making something crazy.
Well said.
Yeah, that's perfect. That is perfect. Well, I guess with that being said, we're going to be ending this interview because we got a little something special to do with Lucas right after this, which you'll also be hearing soon. A little assassination, yes. Yes. But yes, we'll be having a little something else with Lucas coming out. You'll have to wait and see what that is. But that being said, thank you guys for listening to this interview. Again, all of Lucas's socials are going to be in the description. Please do go follow it. Please go watch. Please go watch it when it comes out, and just support art, man. Go support it. Go do it. Go watch the movie. But there you go. So we'll see you guys for the little something special we got. So we'll see you guys later. Bye bye.
Bye bye.